Isn't Christianity a clever religion? You invent a problem, and then you invent a solution to that problem. And then you mandate that unless you accept that solution to the problem which you created, you will be struck down in eternal damnation. So coming to the line, yes, we've got Chris calling in. He's going to defend this state of affairs, and Matt Dillahunty is going to take him to task on it. So let's have a listen to what happens.
Name something that the God of the Bible did that is undeniably good.
Well, I would say later in the, obviously the New Testament, and this is kind of subjective too on how people view it, but I would say Christ's sacrifice.
Okay. I asked for something. I asked for something that was undeniably good. And your response is that it's subjective, but Christ's sacrifice. Why is coming down and taking human form and sacrificing yourself to yourself in a bloody ritual to make a loophole for rules that you're responsible for? What's good about that?
Well, I think you're kind of minimizing.
I think you're kind of avoiding
that. Well, no. I'm saying you're minimizing love. I think
what's good about it?
Because I think that's
love.
Love.
I think it's love. Yes.
Really?
It's an act of love.
Could God just forgive us? Could God just forgive us without going through a bloody murder?
He could.
Then wouldn't that be more loving?
I think what I've heard Christians say about this is that no, because God came down and became a man and had to suffer the actual physical pain and torment in order to prove his love and absolve us of that original sin. So
wouldn't that be the more loving solution, to just forgive everybody?
Or just not putting us in the position.
Yeah, if it's painful, if it's genuinely painful, then somehow there's more value in it as an act of love.
Originally, or not, or just, I want to just follow up with what Matt says.
Well, no.
In order to,
okay.
well, just a situation that we were put into originally by the, Adam and Eve in the garden, and God putting this insurmountable evil in front of them and then punishing them for it when he knew that they were going to do it anyway and that they couldn't do otherwise, but then making them responsible for it and then punishing their offspring and then gaslighting humans and making us feel guilty for what he did, and then gaslighting us even further by sending down somebody who's human and causing us to beat him to death, and then putting that on our shoulders and just causing all of that guilt. You call that love? That's what you call.
Yeah, just briefly, the insurmountable evil that he put before Adam and Eve was just simply temptation. That's all, and that they transgressed his command.
Quantify or qualify as love?
Well, see, I kind of wanted to go to what Matt was saying. Like he beat himself, and why didn't he just forgive us? I see now. I think you're downplaying sin.
Sin.
And
Sin
wrongdoing.
is a doctrine of religion.
Chris, hang on, everybody. Chris, do you have a turn signal on? Are you in your car?
I'm in a truck. I'm a truck driver. So.
Oh.
Are you driving right now?
I'm going through a way station. I'm driving, but I have a headset on. So, yeah.
Well, I don't want people who are driving. But Nikki asked a particular question, and you decided to ignore it, come back to my question, but ignore my actual question and just suggest that I'm downplaying sin. What you're engaging in now is whataboutism, instead of actually addressing the question of what is good or what is.
I think that we've got a right to downplay sin. First of all, there's no demonstration that this theological doctrine has got any validity or truth to it. Secondly, this doctrine that every single human being is stained by the original sin is completely unfair and unjust. So I think we've got every right to downplay sin and even negate it.
Is love, or whether or not what God does qualifies as love. You want to keep deflecting back to sin. Who is ultimately responsible for sin, Chris?
Well, okay. So
who is ultimately responsible for sin, Chris?
Okay. Who is ultimately okay? Well, I think that I know you're trying to, put it on that God is basically the one. See, so that's going back to maybe God is not as good as we think he is.
Maybe he's not as you think he is. My only issue isn't whether or not God is good or evil. It's whether or not God exists in the first place. Everything we've discussed from the second you started this phone call has been pointless, useless, window dressing speculation about the fantasy story that you are believing. I only care whether or not it's true. If there's a good God and he exists, I'd like to know it. If there's an evil God and he exists, I'd like to know it. The rest of it is fucking fan fiction, and it's a waste of mine and everybody else's time. Can you demonstrate that the God you believe in exists?
Okay, so at the beginning of the show, you said you were talking about this, and I would say that I would not be able to prove it to you.
Cool.
I can't prove it to you.
Then the next, question.
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't really.
Nikki just asked that.
It doesn't need proving. What he needs to do is provide his evidence. What evidence has he got to support his claim that there is a God? That's something different from 100% proof. We need sufficient evidence to believe in the existence of God, not absolute proof.
The next question, though. So listen to it.
Go ahead. Okay.
How did you prove it to yourself?
How did I prove it to myself? I observe the world around me, and I look at, I felt like things started getting more aggressive, Matt, when
Did you hear that? He was asked, how did you prove it to yourself? And he went down the path of, I observed the world around me, and and then he suddenly stopped, and he accused Matt of getting aggressive when Jesus was mentioned.
And I started referring to Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay. And,
I'm sorry.
In other words, in Matt's language, he's whining.
What are you talking about? Wait, hang on.
What do you think he was going to say before he accused Matt of getting more aggressive when he mentioned Jesus, when he said, I observe the world around me? What do you think he was going to say next? Look at the birds, look at the trees.
Hang on, Chris.
Yeah.
Nikki just asked you how you convinced yourself. And it seems that what you did in response to that was mumble and then suggest that I got more hostile or more aggravated when you mentioned Jesus. Is that what you're trying to do right now?
Look.
Is that what you're trying to do right now?
Hey, don't raise your voice at me, dog. Okay?
I will fucking raise my voice at you whenever I want, you lying piece of shit who just accused me of stuff that...
What did he call Matt? Dog?
Didn't happen.
Hey, dog.
You've been deflecting.
Hey,
no. Now your ass is muted.
No,
I don't have to listen. You're muted.
Oh, of course. Matt called him bitch, and he responded, dog. Okay, I get it.
Bitch. Listen. I listened to you, and I played your little game, and I did your little tap dance. And you want to accuse me of doing something that I did not do. Nikki and I have sat here and patiently hand-walked your ass down to realizations that are uncomfortable. And I'm genuinely sorry that you are so uncomfortable right now that instead of actually answering the question that Nikki asked or answering the question that I asked, you just...
I know why he changed tact and he deflected to, you got aggressive when I mentioned Jesus. It's because he realized he was going down that cliche, stupid Christian route that we hear so often. I observe the world around me, the good works that the Lord does, and how he's turned my life around, how where did everything come from? I observe butterflies, I observe trees, why is gravity so precise, etc., etc. He became aware that he was going to sound like as big an ignorant idiot as every other Christian who's trotted out that argument from ignorance, and so he suddenly started whining about Matt getting more aggressive when he mentioned Jesus.
Decided to turn this around and be like, well, I noticed things started getting rather hostile as soon as I mentioned Jesus. Are you an idiot? I was a Christian for more than 30 years. I have no fear or anger or anything else with regard to somebody mentioning Jesus. What I have frustration with is someone like you who calls in, and when asked questions that lead towards conclusions, you twist and turn, and then you start accusing. You start making accusations because all you're looking for is some sort of validation. Oh, look, I said this word and the atheist got upset. That must have really been Jesus sticking the knife in. No, it was you being a deflecting prick. Now, I'm going to put you off hold and give you a chance to answer Nikki's question, which was, how did you convince yourself? You are off mute.
Okay. All right. So how did I convince myself? So what I was saying before is I basically, I observe the world, morality, good and evil, and and it is subjective. It's personal experience. And I know, Matt, you're going to say, how is that any way to prove anything? And it's not, so I guess.
So I was wrong. He was going to say, well, he might have been going down that road, but he had time to get his thoughts together. He observed the world. He observed good and evil. What can be concluded from that? How did all his observations about morality and good and evil lead him to the belief that God exists? He's not really explaining that. He's just saying, oh, it's all subjective and it's personal experience.
We're kind of at that point where, I can't prove it to you. And I did say that to you, Matt. I told you that.
But I'm going to stop talking in just a second because Nikki's about to light this place up.
No, he can't prove it, but he's given his reasons for why he believes.
That's not an answer to Nikki's question, to say you observed, you saw good and evil, and it's all about personal experience, and you're admitting that you won't prove it to us. It would be helpful if you would say, what was the personal experience that convinced you that there was this particular God? Because
that's what I'm usually interested in. When Christians tell me, they will say something must have come from nothing. Where does morality come from, etc., etc. None of those interest me because they've all been kind of dealt with and debunked. What interests me is the personal experience, because that is, in a lot of situations, the reason that people believe in God, because they've had this big Paul on the road to Damascus kind of personal experience. And I'm interested in the specifics of that. So let's hear it.
That was Nikki's question. And you just offered kind of a vague little thing and went back to how you couldn't prove it to us. I get that you can't prove it to us. Could you explain what this personal experience was so that Nikki can get an answer to her question?
Okay. Well, I was just trying to do it briefly because I know there's other callers on the line, and
I don't need.
They usually say this when they're trying to run away. Oh, there's not enough time, really. I'll call back next time. You've got other callers.
Preamble. I need the experience. Stop wasting our time and answer her question.
Okay. I'm gonna forfeit. I'm just gonna, because I don't want to go into it any further. You've already gotten extremely aggressive with me. I don't want to talk anymore. So, okay, Matt?
Chris, it doesn't matter how aggressive Matt gets, because Jesus, if Jesus exists and he's on your side and he can counter any aggression that Matt or anyone throws at you, it shouldn't matter.
Okay, that is a brilliant point, actually. And that's the case with every Christian that calls in. If you're any Christians out there, you've got God on your side. You've got Jesus on your side. If your beliefs are true, you've got absolutely nothing to fear. There's no need to run away. There's no need to forfeit, as Chris has done on this occasion. He humiliated himself. He couldn't prove anything. He couldn't really support his beliefs at all. And now he's just run away when he had the one piece of evidence that his belief system seems to rest on, this personal experience. He wasn't prepared to share it and say what it is. So it was a complete waste of time and it was dishonest. Okay, thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought of that call. Bye for now.